I woke slowly, trapped somewhere between darkness and consciousness, my body refusing to respond. The world around me was muted, filled with distant beeps and muffled conversations. For a moment, I thought I was alone, helpless, powerless. Then I heard them. Grant's voice, low, measured, but sharp enough to cut through the fog. As soon as the old hag wakes up, she goes to a nursing home. We've already discussed it. Willow, we need to secure that power of attorney. She can't live alone anymore, that much is certain. And her house? We need that equity now. Willow's reply was quiet, almost reluctant. It feels harsh, Grant. Harsh? My own daughter calling this harsh? My heart froze. I wanted to cry out, to reach for them, to stop the words from spilling, but my body refused. I was pinned by my own helplessness, watching the betrayal unfold as though I were a ghost in my own room. Every syllable from Grant's mouth carved a wound deeper than the pain from the accident that had put me here. Months of care, my home, my life savings, they were discussing them like objects on a ledger. I lay still, forcing my heart to steady, my breathing calm, even as the rage inside me began to simmer. I had given everything for this family. The home, my savings, my trust. And this is how they spoke of me, as though I were already gone. And yet, I was here. I was listening, fully aware, fully alive inside this body that refused to obey. This was the moment that changed everything. The woman they thought helpless, trapped in a hospital bed, was wide awake in her mind. Every calculated word, every selfish plan, they were mine now to see. And they had no idea. If you've ever trusted someone completely, only to discover betrayal at its rawest, you know the fire that can ignite in such moments. That fire would not fade. It would drive me to reclaim everything they thought they could steal. Before I could even plan my next move, I realized something. These kinds of stories happen more than people want to admit. Families, people you love and trust, who turn when opportunity knocks. That's why I share this with you. Don't miss these stories. Subscribe now and stay informed, because sometimes, awareness is the only shield you have. Those who don't, ask yourself, do you want to be caught off guard in your own life? Drop a comment if you dare explain why not. She was supposed to be unconscious, but I heard every word, every plan, every cruel calculation. And in that silent, powerless state, a single thought became my anchor. I would not let them win. I had spent 73 years cultivating a life that felt steady, rewarding, and full of quiet joys. My mornings began with sunlight spilling across the kitchen, the aroma of fresh coffee mingling with the scent of blooming roses from the garden I tended with unwavering care. I had always loved my garden, not just for the flowers but for the sense of calm it brought. Each rose, each patch of vibrant marigolds, was a reminder that life, even when difficult, could be beautiful when nurtured with patience. After 35 years as a kindergarten teacher, shaping little minds and watching them grow, I had finally retired. Those years had left me with more than memories. They left me with a heart full of pride, and a home that reflected a life carefully lived. I had friends at the bridge club, neighbors who waved from manicured lawns, and a community that accepted me as one of their own. It was a simple, comfortable life, a rhythm I had come to rely on, and I loved every detail of it. Then there was Willow, my daughter, my heart outside my body. She was the reason I had moved to the suburbs of Phoenix, the reason I had invested in this life. When her father, Arthur, passed suddenly a decade ago, Willow became my anchor. Her laughter, her warmth, her unwavering optimism carried me through months of grief that I thought would never end. She was my sunshine, the reason I kept dreaming of a future, even after my world had been shattered. Watching her grow into the woman she had become, seeing the life she and Grant were building, it filled me with a sense of purpose I had never imagined could exist after losing Arthur. Grant, her husband, was the kind of man who presented charm like armor. He worked in commercial real estate, and from the first time I met him, he carried himself with a confidence that was polished, calculated, and compelling. He wore sharp suits that looked tailored to perfection, and his smile suggested a warmth he rarely delivered in full. Over the years, I had observed him closely, not in a suspicious way, but as any mother does when she trusts someone with her child's happiness. There were subtle things I noticed: a tendency to prioritize money over time, a focus on numbers and returns that sometimes overshadowed empathy. But I convinced myself these were the quirks of a driven man, one who loved my daughter in his own way. I had given everything to support their life together. When Willow and Grant decided to buy their dream home, I didn't hesitate to help. I liquidated a substantial portion of my savings, $450,000, to cover the down payment for the property that would become their forever home. It was money I had accumulated over decades, saved with care and patience, money meant to provide security and comfort. They had insisted that I keep my financial documents and estate planning papers in their secure, fireproof safe, claiming it was just in case and meant to protect me. At the time, it felt thoughtful, considerate even, a sign that they wanted to honor my efforts. I trusted them. I loved them. Every detail of my life reflected trust and devotion. I had sacrificed for them, not out of obligation, but out of love. And that trust was not blind. It was earned through years of family bonds, shared holidays, laughter, tears, and quiet moments when we simply existed together. I had assumed that my generosity and dedication would be reciprocated, that the family I had nurtured would protect me as fiercely as I had protected them. Yet, even in this perfect world, cracks were quietly forming, so subtle I didn't notice them at first. A dismissive glance here, a hurried phone call there, words meant to manipulate or persuade rather than comfort. They were small, almost imperceptible, but in retrospect, they were warning signs. I had invested more than money into this family. I had invested my trust, my time, my heart. And in a moment I could never have predicted, that trust was about to be tested in ways I never imagined. I wanted to believe that my life was safe, that the home I had carefully built around love and loyalty was secure. Every morning I rose, tending to my garden, preparing breakfast, and arranging my bridge club schedule. I felt the satisfaction of a life lived with intention. And yet, all of that stability, all of that love, was about to collide with a truth that would leave me questioning everything I thought I knew about the people closest to me. Because sometimes, those we love most can reveal sides of themselves we never thought existed. And when that day came, when I found myself caught in a moment of absolute vulnerability, I would discover the full measure of what trust can cost, and how crucial it is to hold power over your own life, even when the world seems calm, even when everything appears secure. The day of the accident began like any other. I had attended my usual bridge club meeting, laughing softly with friends over hands of cards and sharing the latest neighborhood stories. On the drive home, the sun hung low in the sky, casting warm light over the familiar streets I had traveled countless times. My mind wandered to the garden I had tended that morning, to the roses that had bloomed brighter than ever, and to the comfort of returning to my quiet, orderly home. It was ordinary, calm, and unremarkable, until the moment everything changed. A young driver, distracted by a glowing screen in his hands, failed to notice the stoplight. 1 second, I was in motion, the gentle hum of tires on asphalt guiding me along the familiar route. The next, a violent impact threw me against the side of my car. Metal twisted and groaned. Glass exploded outward like shards of light. Pain erupted immediately, a searing, blinding force that seemed to invade every nerve in my body. The world spun and fractured, the sound of breaking glass and twisting metal echoing in a way that was impossible to ignore. The next sensation was one of disorientation and heavy weight pressing down on me. My body, battered and broken, refused to respond to my commands. I tried to call out, but my throat was dry, the words swallowed before they could form. I tried to move my limbs, but even the smallest motion sent a jolt of agony coursing through my side. Panic threatened to rise, but I forced myself to calm my breathing, knowing instinctively that survival depended on it. Paramedics arrived, their voices urgent yet distant, slicing through the haze. I felt the restraint of their careful hands as they stabilized me, the cold bite of medical tools against my skin, and the continuous hum of machines that would keep me alive. Even as consciousness began to slip, I retained a sliver of awareness, clinging to the sounds, the voices, the rhythm of the world I was no longer able to touch. Days passed, though it was impossible to tell how many. My mind existed in a twilight realm, suspended between reality and oblivion. I was aware of temperature, pressure, and the presence of life around me, yet I could neither speak nor move. My eyelids were heavy, my limbs unresponsive, my body a cage of pain. Time became meaningless. Every sound, the beeping of monitors, the shuffling of nurses' shoes, the distant chatter of the hospital ward, was magnified, yet I could not respond. I was a prisoner in my own body, conscious yet entirely powerless. The psychological weight of this helplessness was crushing. Thoughts raced uncontrollably while my body remained frozen. I imagined Willow visiting, her face radiant with concern, and feared I would never be able to reassure her that I was okay. I imagined Grant standing by, calculating, observing, and felt an inexplicable dread creeping in, though I could not yet understand why. The sense of being entirely at the mercy of others gnawed at me, a constant reminder that even the simplest needs, food, comfort, warmth, were beyond my control. Pain was a constant companion. My side throbbed with every breath, my hip felt shattered with every subtle movement, and the concussions left my mind clouded, thoughts tangled in a dense fog. Sleep and wakefulness blurred together. There were moments when I could feel my pulse, hear the rush of blood through my ears, and sense the rhythm of my heart. Those moments were terrifying in their clarity, reminding me that despite the motionless exterior, life still surged within me, trapped and confined. It was during this fragile limbo that I began to sense the world around me in ways I had never anticipated. Every whispered conversation, every footstep outside my room, every pause and hesitation in the voices of those passing by became vivid. I learned, quickly and painfully, that even when the body fails, the mind remains a vigilant witness. And it was in this vulnerable state, suspended between unconsciousness and awareness, that the seeds of what would come next quietly took root. The desperation of knowing you cannot act is unlike any physical pain. It is a mental siege, a gnawing awareness that your life is unfolding around you, and yet you cannot influence a single moment. And in that desperate clarity, the truth began to emerge. The realization that some of the people I had trusted implicitly were not concerned with my recovery at all. That insight was more agonizing than the accident itself, a sharp twist of fear, anger, and disbelief all at once. The days blurred into nights, each moment stretching longer than the last. My body remained a fragile, uncooperative shell, yet slowly, ever so slowly, the fog that had blanketed my mind began to lift. It was subtle at first, a faint awareness of temperature changes, the slight shift of light through the hospital blinds, the distant murmur of footsteps approaching. I could sense the world around me, yet every attempt to reach out, to make my presence known, was met with the cruel betrayal of immobility. I became painfully conscious of my surroundings. The sterile scent of antiseptic, the occasional metallic tang of blood, the soft hum of machines, all of it filled the space I could hear but not touch. My body felt like a museum exhibit, carefully preserved yet entirely unresponsive, while my mind raced, alert and desperate. Each shallow breath sent tiny waves of pain across my ribs, a reminder of the accident that had brought me to this suspended state. I tried to move. A finger, a hand, a blink, anything to communicate that I was still here, still alive, still aware. But the rebellion of my own muscles against my will was infuriating. It was a form of imprisonment that no prison could replicate. The mind wants to act, to assert control, yet the body refuses, leaving only the cruel awareness of helplessness. And yet, the awareness was sharpening. Sounds, once distant and meaningless, became distinct. The rhythm of the heart monitor was no longer just a background noise. It was a drumbeat I synchronized with, counting time, waiting for signs that my mind and body might reconnect. Conversations in the hall carried fragments of life into my perception. Nurses coordinating care, visitors speaking softly, the occasional distant laughter from another ward. Every word, every tone, every pause became a piece of the puzzle I was slowly assembling in my mind. It was during one of these moments, as I floated in the liminal space between full unconsciousness and awareness, that I realized something terrifying. I could hear everything. Every conversation that occurred within my room, every whispered remark, every subtle shift in tone, all reached me with clarity. It was as though the world had become magnified, while I remained confined in a body that refused to obey. The frustration was suffocating. I wanted to cry out, to call for help, to alert anyone who might be nearby. My mind screamed, my heart raced, yet no sound emerged. It was as if the world existed in two planes. One where I was trapped, immobile, and helpless, and one where life continued, unaware that I was fully awake. The contrast was maddening, a torture that forged a new edge of determination within me. Slowly, tiny victories began to emerge. A flutter of an eyelid, a barely perceptible shift of a finger. Each small movement, painstakingly executed, became a triumph, a proof that the bridge between mind and body could be rebuilt. I learned to conserve energy, to control breathing, to hide pain, to measure every effort so that no one suspected the awakening that was taking place. My very survival depended on the illusion that I remained incapacitated. It was during this delicate balance, aware yet unable to act, that the first real suspense began. Every step, every sound, every word from the people around me carried the potential for revelation. I could feel tension without being able to respond. I could sense threat without being able to intervene. My awareness became a double-edged sword, a source of insight, yet also a relentless torment. And then, amid the silence, came the whispers that would change everything. Words that were never meant to reach my ears now collided with the fragile state of my consciousness. Plans were being made, intentions revealed, a truth I could not ignore. I was hearing their private calculations, their cold, deliberate discussions, and for the first time in days, a spark of clarity cut through the fog. Every detail of their voices, every hesitation, every inflection became a map. I began to understand not only their plans but the depth of their willingness to betray. The knowledge surged through me, mingling with the pain and frustration, igniting something I had never felt before, a resolute, unbreakable focus. Despite my immobility, I felt alive in a way I had never known. The mind, free from the constraints of the body, could observe, learn, and prepare. I realized that this period of helplessness, terrifying as it was, had given me the most valuable gift: the ability to understand my enemies fully before they knew I was awake. Every moment of torment became a lesson in patience, every sensation of weakness a preparation for the action I would soon take. As the fog lifted, as awareness became stronger, I understood one undeniable truth. The person who believed herself powerless had become the silent witness to every betrayal, every plan, every miscalculation. And in that quiet, intense observation, a plan began to form. A plan born of survival, clarity, and a burning need to reclaim control over a life that was being stolen before my very eyes. I was barely conscious, yet every sound cut through me with crystal clarity. My ears, attuned to the world while my body remained unresponsive, picked up the soft, deliberate footfalls approaching my hospital room. I recognized them immediately: Willow's familiar steps, the slight click of Grant's polished shoes on the tile. Their presence, once a source of comfort, now tightened the grip of fear around my chest. Grant's voice came first, low and controlled, but with a hardness I could not ignore. "Are you sure the doctor said she's improving?" he asked, a hint of impatience threading through his words. It was not the voice of a devoted son-in-law. There was no concern, no tremor of worry, only calculation, measured and cold. My chest ached at the realization that my life was being discussed as if I were a mere object, a line item in a ledger to be managed, moved, and monetized. Willow's response was quieter, edged with uncertainty. "Yes, the sedation is being reduced. She might wake fully tomorrow, or the day after. But Grant, her hip is broken, and the concussion. She'll need months of care. Therapy, rehabilitation, it's a lot to handle." His reply was almost clinical in its detachment. "Months? Honey, we can't afford months of this. The house payment is next week, and the market isn't favorable right now. We need access to her accounts, and soon." The words hit me like a slap. Months of suffering, rehabilitation, recovery. They were merely obstacles in a financial calculation, not considerations of my health or well-being. Then came the moment that would freeze my blood. I could hear him lean closer, his voice dropping to a whisper intended for her ears alone. As soon as the old hag wakes up, she goes to the nursing home. We've already discussed it. Willow, we need that power of attorney. She can't live alone anymore. That house? We'll sell it fast. She'll be cared for medically, and we'll finally be free to take that Caribbean vacation. Maybe get the new car we've wanted. Everything falls into place. Old hag. The word ricocheted inside my skull, a cold, jagged blade slicing through the fog of my mind. The man my daughter had married, the man I had welcomed into my family, was speaking of me with disdain, of my life as a commodity. And Willow, my own daughter, offered only a quiet, trembling protest. Grant, it feels heartless. Heartless. I wanted to scream, to demand their compassion, to remind them of all I had given. But I couldn't. My body refused, my lips sealed by injury and sedation. And yet, the clarity of betrayal burned brighter than any physical pain I had endured. Heartless? It's practical. Willow. We took care of her. She's 73. She's had a good run. She's not thinking clearly anyway. We tell the doctor we can't handle the level of care she needs, present the documents, and it's done. Think of the Caribbean. Think of the new car. His voice, sweet and persuasive, dripped with manipulation, but I could see it all in my mind. The calculation behind each word, the way he believed he could bend the world to his will. I felt a hot, helpless surge of anger, mingled with heartbreak. I had spent decades nurturing this family, supporting their dreams, providing security they had promised to respect. And here they were, planning to use my incapacitation as leverage to strip me of my autonomy, my home, and the wealth I had entrusted to them. The weight of the betrayal was more brutal than the injury itself. I heard the final line, the one meant to seal my fate. We get the signatures tomorrow morning. By lunchtime, she'll be settling into the peaceful pines, and we'll be settling her affairs. The room seemed to pulse with the finality of it, each word a hammer blow. They believed I was powerless. They believed I would be confined, controlled, and compliant. And in that moment, something shifted within me. Pain, fear, and helplessness transformed into a sharp, determined clarity. My mind, trapped in a body that refused to move, became a weapon. Every shred of betrayal, every ounce of calculated manipulation, hardened my resolve. I would not be a victim. I would not be manipulated. I would not allow them to take my life, my home, or my dignity. The knowledge that I could hear every plan, every whispered intent, became the spark of my awakening. I realized that their overconfidence, their certainty in my incapacity, was their greatest mistake. They had revealed everything. Their greed, their impatience, their willingness to betray their own family. They had left the blueprint of their schemes exposed to the one person who could act. I clenched my jaw, forcing my heart rate to remain steady as I breathed shallowly, making sure the monitors showed nothing unusual. I would become the master of stillness, the silent observer, the hidden strategist. I would endure the night, play the part of the helpless patient, and wait for the right moment. Even as Grant and Willow left my room, their conversation fading into the corridor, I felt the fire inside me ignite. The retired kindergarten teacher, the quiet woman who had spent her life nurturing others, was gone. In her place stood a vigilant mind, a patient strategist, and a woman fueled by betrayal, ready to reclaim control over everything that was hers. For the first time since the accident, I was not afraid. I was preparing. I was planning. And by tomorrow, they would discover that underestimating me had been their gravest mistake. I had less than 12 hours. 12 hours to transform from the broken, bedridden woman they believed I was into someone who could reclaim everything they intended to steal. The first part of the plan was simple in concept, impossible in execution. I needed to convince everyone I was still incapacitated while secretly preparing my escape. Every breath, every small movement, had to be measured with precision. When Della, the night nurse, entered to check vitals, I let her think I was fading in and out of consciousness. A soft, shaky moan when she touched my hand, a barely perceptible shift of my eyelid, enough to satisfy her that I was still fragile, still incapable, still the vulnerable patient they expected. I kept my eyes half-lidded, my expression slack, my body obedient to the illusion I had mastered. Once Della left, the real challenge began. Moving was agony. Every inch required strategy. My left hip screamed with every effort, but I had to ignore it. I clutched the bed rails, pivoted on my elbows, and slowly edged toward the closet. The tote bag that contained my essential tools of freedom, passport, emergency cash, travel credit card, safety deposit box key, was within reach. Each inch was a test of endurance, but also of patience. I could not afford a single misstep. If I made noise, if I drew attention, everything would collapse. Reaching the closet was like crossing a battlefield in slow motion. My hands trembled as I opened the zipper, my pulse pounding not just with fear but with determination. I tucked the portfolio under my gown, feeling the weight of it, knowing it carried everything I needed to reclaim my life. I briefly allowed myself a thought of Arthur, of his insistence on always having a plan, a backup, a way out. I had followed his lessons meticulously. Today, they would save me. The next obstacle was the window. The ground floor room offered a possible exit, but the lock had to be broken without raising alarms. I spotted the metal serving tray tucked under the table. Pain lanced through my side as I positioned it against the lock, bracing with what little strength remained in my shoulders and arms. With slow, deliberate force, I struck. The mechanism yielded after several attempts, the sound of breaking metal muffled by distant noises from the hall. A shiver of relief ran through me. I could almost taste freedom. Dressing was another challenge. My clothes lay in the tote, waiting for me. Each movement sent sharp bolts of pain through my hip, each step in preparation a test of will. I pulled on loose athletic pants and a soft sweatshirt, clothing that would not hinder my movements but would hide my identity should anyone catch a glimpse. Every action was punctuated by the reminder of what was at stake. If I failed, I would be confined, controlled, and powerless again. The bed had to be convincing. I rearranged sheets and pillows to mimic the shape of a sleeping body, creating a decoy that would deceive anyone who entered. It was a simple tactic, but essential. The room had to appear undisturbed, ordinary, mundane, while I prepared to vanish into the night. The moment finally came. I paused, listening for any sign of movement in the hallway, any sound that might betray a presence. Silence, save for the faint hum of machines, greeted me. I moved toward the window, careful not to jostle the bed or make any sudden noises. One final check, then, squeezing through the narrow opening, I felt the cool night air on my face. The ground was closer than it looked, but I landed awkwardly, bracing against the sharp pain that shot through my hip. Pain surged, but fear and adrenaline pushed it aside. I was free. The landscaping shadows became my allies. Each step took me farther from the room that had held me captive, each careful movement a triumph over their plans. I reached the main road just as the first hint of dawn painted the horizon. I raised my hand, signaling a passing taxi, and climbed in without hesitation. The driver, oblivious, began the engine. I gave him the address of the first safe location I could think of. An old friend, a former colleague, Estelle, whose discretion I could trust implicitly. As the cab pulled away, I allowed myself a fleeting glance back at the hospital. The building loomed large, imposing, but it no longer had dominion over me. My pulse began to slow, but my mind raced. They would arrive soon, expecting to find me helpless, bedridden, under their control. Instead, they would discover only absence, and soon, the consequences of underestimating me. Every throbbing step, every sting of pain, every moment of fear had brought me closer to autonomy. I had the portfolio, I had my documents, and I had a plan. But most importantly, I had regained my agency, and with it, the power to strike back at the betrayal that had sought to consume me. This was not just escape. It was the first move in a strategy that would leave no part of their deception unchallenged. The moment I stepped through Estelle's front door, a wave of relief washed over me, mingled with exhaustion. Her home was quiet, deliberately untraceable, and utterly safe. The warm aroma of fresh coffee filled the kitchen, but I barely noticed. Pain throbbed through my hip, each step a reminder of the night's escape, but I could not allow discomfort to slow me now. Freedom was only meaningful if I could protect it. Estelle's eyes widened as she took in my disheveled appearance and the uneven, stiff way I moved. "Opal, what happened?" she asked softly, instinctively reaching for me. I held up a hand, signaling that questions would come later. She understood immediately. I needed action first, explanations second. She moved quickly, helping me settle into a chair while keeping her tone neutral, professional. First, we addressed my injuries. I could not return to the hospital. Not now, not ever. Not without exposing my plan and placing myself back under their control. Estelle had connections, discreet professionals who operated off the books. Within minutes, she had called a trusted doctor who agreed to meet at her home. A cash-only arrangement, no records, no trace. The doctor arrived, assessing my hip, my ribs, and the minor abrasions from my escape. Each movement, each examination, confirmed that I could continue with my plan, though carefully. Pain was a warning, not a deterrent. Once my body was attended to, my attention turned to finances. Grant and Willow had already attempted to act on their scheme, moving money from my primary accounts in anticipation of my supposed helplessness. Their confidence had been their undoing. I accessed my accounts through Estelle's secure computer, my fingers flying across the keyboard with purpose. Every password was changed, every transaction frozen. High-level security questions were updated to obscure, unpredictable answers. Any attempt they made now would fail, blocked before it even began. I paused for a moment, realizing the depth of the betrayal. They had assumed, without hesitation, that my incapacitation would leave me powerless. They had counted on my silence, my inability to respond. And yet, through their overconfidence, I now had the advantage. Every misstep they had made was a piece of the puzzle that allowed me to protect what was rightfully mine. Next, I contacted Mr. Harlan, my longtime lawyer and trusted friend. I explained the situation in careful detail, leaving nothing ambiguous. The recordings from the hospital, the evidence of their conversation, the financial attempts, they were all documented, all accounted for. Mr. Harlan understood the urgency immediately. Arrangements were made for a confidential meeting later that day, with a plan to initiate legal proceedings that would prevent any further interference with my assets. While I prepared, Estelle moved quietly around the house, ensuring our communications were secure. The air was tense but controlled. We operated with precision, aware that one wrong move could alert Grant and Willow to my location or intentions. I realized that revenge would not simply be about reclaiming money or property. It would be about justice, exposure, and ensuring they felt the consequences of their deception without delay. I allowed myself a brief moment to breathe. In the chair, with the portfolio tucked safely beside me, I reflected on the irony. They had plotted to strip me of everything while I was trapped, yet their scheme had provided me with all the tools I needed to fight back. Every detail of their plan was now a weapon in my hands. The recording, the financial oversight, and the legal counsel all combined to form a shield and a sword. By midday, the pieces were in place. Accounts secured, doctor's visit complete, lawyer briefed, and my temporary base fortified. I was ready to take the next steps. A precise, calculated counterstrike designed to leave them stunned and powerless. Every measure I had taken ensured that my escape was not just physical, but financial, legal, and strategic. I was no longer vulnerable. As I sipped a cautiously prepared cup of tea, I felt the first true sense of control since the accident. My hip still protested with each movement, a sharp reminder of the ordeal, but my mind was razor-sharp. The betrayal that had threatened to shatter my life had instead awakened an unwavering focus. I was no longer the woman they thought they could manipulate. I was fully alert, fully aware, and fully prepared. The final phase would involve direct confrontation, though not in person. They would never see it coming, and they would have no chance to recover once the legal and financial measures were in place. The documents, the recording, and the secured funds would become the instruments of accountability. By the time Grant and Willow realized what had happened, it would be too late. Their plan, so carefully laid out against me, would unravel under the weight of their own arrogance. And so, sitting in Estelle's quiet, secure home, I allowed myself the tiniest smile. I was ready. The next step would leave them frozen in shock, the consequences of their actions laid bare. My freedom was intact, my assets protected, and my mind focused entirely on reclaiming what was mine, and ensuring that the betrayal they thought would be permanent became their ultimate undoing. I spent the night in Estelle's guest room writing the letter that would bring everything to a halt. Every word mattered. Every sentence had to land with the weight of truth and consequence. They wanted to treat me as paperwork, as a burden, as someone who no longer had control over her life. This letter would prove otherwise. It would be the mirror they never expected to look into. By sunrise, I had crafted 3 sections, each one designed to strike exactly where it would matter most. The first section dealt with the recording. The pendant around my neck had been a gift from Willow years ago, something I wore out of sentiment, never knowing it would one day protect me. A tiny sliding switch on its side activated a discreet audio feature. Grant and Willow never bothered to check. They assumed I was unconscious, unaware, lost. But I heard every word, and the recorder captured the full conversation, from their financial plotting to their plan to place me in a facility against my wishes. I wrote plainly. My lawyer already possessed the full audio file. Copies were secured in multiple locations. If anything happened to me, if they attempted to locate me, pressure me, access my accounts, or approach my home, the recording would be forwarded to Grant's employer without hesitation. His job relied on credibility, reputation, and public trust. The revelation that he tried to take advantage of an injured family member would destroy all of that instantly. The tone of the letter wasn't loud or emotional. Calm words carry far more power when you know the recipient depends on silence. The second section addressed the loan. For years, they had told everyone the money I provided for their home was generosity. But the papers Grant had insisted on handling himself without reading clearly had been drafted by my lawyer. He thought he was saving time by signing without review, assuming it was a gift agreement. It wasn't. It was a formal loan with a clause allowing full repayment if either party acted in a way that jeopardized my well-being. Their conversation in the hospital fulfilled that clause entirely. I stated that the full balance, $450,000, was due within 48 hours. Failure to pay would transfer the case to civil court immediately. Grant and Willow would face wage garnishment, asset seizure, and a legal trail that would follow them for years. And unlike their secret plans, my actions would be fully lawful. The final section cut the last thread between us. I removed them from any involvement in my health decisions. My lawyer had already filed the documents. From that moment forward, they held no authority and no access. Any attempt to interfere with my care, finances, housing, or legal matters would be considered harassment and reported accordingly. The law was now involved, not emotion. I ended with a short farewell. No rage, no rambling, no attempt to soften the edges. I simply acknowledged that trust had been broken beyond recovery, and that this would be the last communication between us. They had made their choice. I was making mine. Once the letter was sealed, I handed it to Estelle. She took it with the same quiet determination she had shown since the moment I arrived. "I'll deliver it at 9:45, she promised. Just enough time for the hospital to begin its morning rounds. Just enough time for them to feel safe before their world shifted. Back at the hospital, the day unfolded just as expected. The staff entered my room shortly after daylight, ready to check vitals and adjust monitors. What they found instead was an empty bed, carefully arranged covers, and a window screen with a single mark where the lock had been forced. A nurse gasped. Someone called security. Within minutes, the entire floor buzzed with confusion. Grant and Willow arrived not long after. Grant with brisk strides and tightened jaw, Willow with forced calm hiding her nervousness. They stopped cold at the sight of the empty room. For a moment, they simply stared, as if their minds refused to accept what was right in front of them. Panic was immediate. Grant demanded answers from the staff. Willow checked the hallway, convinced I must have been moved. Neither of them considered the possibility that I walked out on my own. Their assumptions had blinded them so completely that the truth didn't feel possible. At precisely 9:45, Estelle approached them in the hallway. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't glare or accuse. She simply held out the envelope with my name written in steady handwriting. "This belongs to you," she said. Grant snatched it without thanks. Willow hesitated, her shoulders tightening. Estelle walked away before they even opened it. They tore into the envelope right there, their hands shaking, their faces shifting from confusion to disbelief to sheer dread. I wasn't there to see it, but Estelle described it later. Grant's lips tightened the moment he read the part about the recording. His face drained of color when he saw the repayment demand. Willow covered her mouth as she reached the final lines. My goodbye. They hadn't lost control of the situation. They had never had control in the first place. While they stood frozen in the hallway, holding the letter with trembling fingers, I was miles away, recovering, rebuilding, and securing the life they tried to take from me. Their plan collapsed in a single morning. My strength returned with a single choice, the choice to save myself. The hospital staff moved swiftly once the empty bed was discovered. Security checked every possible exit, while nurses and administrators coordinated to locate me. By mid-morning, they understood that no clerical error had occurred. I had left under my own power, and there was no evidence of coercion. Administrators began documenting everything meticulously. Forms that Grant and Willow had hoped to sign were now inaccessible, locked behind legal protocols. Staff reported the letter and recordings to the hospital's legal department immediately. No further attempts to move me could be made without facing severe legal consequences. Meanwhile, word reached Grant's employer. The recording had been sent as promised, along with a concise summary of their plan to exploit me financially and to coerce signatures while I was incapacitated. The response was swift. Grant was suspended pending a full internal review. His reputation, once carefully polished, began to crack under the scrutiny of colleagues and supervisors. The realization that his professional standing could collapse within days, combined with the public exposure risk, sent him into a state of panic. He had traded security for greed, and now the cost was becoming painfully clear. The financial machinery they had hoped to manipulate also failed. Banks froze any attempted transfers and flagged all accounts for unusual activity. Every move they tried to make, from accessing funds to transferring money, was blocked. The repayment clause in the private loan agreement became enforceable the moment the letter reached them. $450,000, the exact amount I had entrusted to them, was now due within 48 hours. Their attempts to circumvent it only heightened the urgency of the consequences they faced. Willow, caught between loyalty and morality, found herself unraveling. The guilt of being complicit in her mother's betrayal weighed heavily. Her initial confusion gave way to shame, and her support for Grant's plan collapsed under the pressure. Arguments erupted between them in private, once the initial shock of the letter passed. The tension fractured the foundation of their marriage. What had seemed a partnership built on shared goals now resembled a battlefield of blame and recrimination. Every choice that day reinforced the truth. She had sided with greed over family. I, meanwhile, focused entirely on recovery. Estelle provided a stable base, ensuring I had access to medical attention without returning to the hospital environment. Pain was still present, but with careful physical therapy and attention, mobility began to return. Each day brought small victories, a longer walk without assistance, the ability to dress without help, a deep breath that didn't send pain shooting through my ribs. I allowed myself brief moments to reflect on how easily I had been betrayed, and how thoroughly I had reclaimed control. My financial security, once threatened, was now firmly re-established. Accounts were locked, transfer privileges restored to me alone, and my lawyer monitored all activities closely. Legal documents protected my assets, my home, and any future decisions about my care. The letter, recording, and loan agreement had shifted power entirely back into my hands. The person who had seemed vulnerable, trapped, and powerless was now the one in command. In the quiet of recovery, I also began to consider the emotional fallout. Willow needed distance, time to process her actions and their consequences. Grant faced professional and legal scrutiny that would not allow him to return to normalcy quickly, if ever. Meanwhile, I was free to rebuild a life of independence, safety, and personal fulfillment. I made deliberate choices about the future. Travel, hobbies, and friendships, things that had been postponed or overlooked, became priorities. I explored opportunities that I had never dared to pursue, now unburdened by fear of financial manipulation or family interference. Each day reinforced that vigilance, self-reliance, and careful planning were as important as health and relationships. By the end of that week, the full impact of my actions became clear. Grant and Willow were paralyzed by consequences, scrambling to mitigate damage they had brought upon themselves. Banks and lawyers held the upper hand. The hospital would not act without legal authority. Their assumptions that I could be manipulated had collapsed entirely. I, on the other hand, was not just surviving, I was thriving. My health, while recovering, was under my control. My finances were secure, my legal standing unassailable, and my peace of mind, once threatened by treachery, was firmly restored. I could move forward knowing that my independence, dignity, and legacy were intact. The lesson was clear: vigilance and preparation are non-negotiable. Trust must be earned, not assumed. And when betrayal comes from those closest to you, there is power in calm, deliberate action. The life I thought I had lost was not only regained, it was rebuilt stronger, safer, and wiser than before. Sitting by the window in Estelle's living room, watching the early morning sun touch the desert horizon, I finally allowed myself to breathe. The world outside moved on as usual, unaware of the storm that had passed behind these walls. I had survived the betrayal, reclaimed my freedom, and ensured that justice, quiet, precise, and inevitable, had been served. And yet, the lesson of these past weeks pressed into me more deeply than any legal victory ever could. Trust is a delicate thing. It can be given freely to those we love, but when misplaced, it becomes a vulnerability that others can exploit. I had given my heart, my savings, and my confidence to Grant and Willow, believing that love and family would guide their actions. I had never doubted their intentions, or so I thought. The harsh truth is that trust, while necessary for connection, must always be paired with vigilance. There are moments in life when caring is not enough, when kindness must be safeguarded with foresight, and when generosity must be tempered with caution. Boundaries are not walls meant to isolate. They are shields that preserve the life, dignity, and autonomy of the person behind them. My boundaries had been assumed, taken for granted, and almost breached completely. But I learned that setting and enforcing clear limits is not selfish. It is self-preservation, and it is essential. One can love without surrendering one's safety or independence. One can be giving without being vulnerable to exploitation. And most importantly, one can fight for their rights without losing their humanity in the process. I also discovered the quiet strength that resides in resolve. Even in the moments of physical weakness, when my body betrayed me, my mind remained my own. The fire of determination, when paired with careful planning, becomes a shield more formidable than any hospital room, legal clause, or locked door. That fire allowed me to navigate the narrow window between vulnerability and empowerment, and it carried me from helplessness to agency in the span of a single night. Perhaps the most surprising lesson was the resilience of the human spirit. Even when betrayed by those closest, even when faced with imminent danger to one's safety and finances, it is possible to rise. It is possible to reclaim not just what was threatened, but to rebuild a life that is stronger, safer, and more intentional than before. The pain of betrayal does not have to define us. Our response can. In those quiet hours of reflection, I understood that every precaution I had taken, every contingency plan I had quietly maintained, had been worth the effort. And I realized that preparedness is not paranoia, it is wisdom. To anyone listening, I say this: life will test your boundaries, your trust, and your patience. People may disappoint, intentions may be hidden, and opportunities for exploitation may appear in the guise of love or care. But you are not powerless. Pay attention to what is said and what is left unsaid. Keep tools for your protection close, whether they are legal documents, personal records, or simple contingency plans. Guard your autonomy, your health, and your peace of mind, because once those are compromised, recovery is far more difficult. I want to leave you with this. The choices we make in response to adversity define our legacy. I chose action, calm strategy, and self-reliance. I chose to protect myself rather than wait to be rescued. And I succeeded. That choice is yours as well. Recognize the value of preparation, the necessity of awareness, and the power of standing firm in your principles. These are not just lessons for me. They are lessons for anyone who believes in the importance of family, trust, and personal freedom. Before I close, I must share a truth that is as simple as it is vital. There are stories like mine happening all around us. Stories of betrayal, survival, and triumph that you may never hear unless you are paying attention. That is why I urge you, if you have not already, to subscribe. Don't wait until the shocking moment passes. Don't risk being unaware when someone's life hangs in the balance. And if you choose not to subscribe, I invite you to comment why, not just for me, but for yourself. Reflection, after all, begins with awareness. Life is unpredictable, yes, but preparedness and vigilance give you the power to shape your own path. I am Opal Delaney, and I survived betrayal, reclaimed my freedom, and now live on my own terms. Let my story be a reminder. Control your destiny, safeguard your trust, and never underestimate the quiet strength within you. Before I let you go, there's one final thought I need to share. You've followed my journey, seen how carefully I navigated betrayal, and watched as a seemingly secure life nearly slipped through my fingers. What happened to me wasn't a random misfortune. It was the result of calculated choices by those I trusted most. And that is why I need to speak directly to you now. You may think betrayal only happens to others. You may believe that because your family or friends seem loyal, you are safe. But the truth is far more sobering. People you love, people you rely on, can sometimes act in ways you never imagined. They can see opportunity in your vulnerability, and when you're unaware, the consequences can be devastating. I lived it. I felt it, trapped in a body that wouldn't respond, helpless while hearing the plans that threatened everything I had built. And I want you to understand, these moments happen quietly, without warning, until it's too late. This is why I am asking you to subscribe. Not as a casual suggestion, not as an idle request, but as a safeguard. Every story on this channel is a lesson. Each narrative exposes the hidden intentions, the subtle manipulations, and the red flags that many overlook. By subscribing, you ensure that you are prepared. You stay informed. You witness the decisions, the warnings, and the actions that others have taken to protect themselves before tragedy strikes. Missing out on these lessons could leave you blind to danger until the consequences are unavoidable. Think for a moment. If someone close to you were plotting behind your back, how long would it take before you noticed? Weeks? Months? Too long. I was only aware because fate, and a twist of circumstance, allowed me to hear everything. If you don't subscribe, you might never see the warning signs in your own life until the damage has been done. And by then, no clever plan, no careful preparation, may be enough to undo the loss. I'm not trying to scare you for entertainment. I am giving you the same chance I wish everyone had when they face betrayal, when trust is tested, when hidden motives come to light. Consider this your opportunity to be alert, to learn, and to fortify your own life. Knowledge is protection, awareness is safety, and witnessing these real-life accounts could make all the difference between being caught off guard and staying in control. And for those who feel hesitant, who pause, who think I don't need this or it won't happen to me, I have one more request. Scroll down and comment why you won't subscribe. Share your reasoning. Engage. It may seem small, but reflecting on your own assumptions could be the very thing that prevents a future disaster. Your insight, your awareness, and your willingness to confront uncomfortable truths are more important than you realize. The stories on this channel are real. The lessons are real. The risks are real. And the decisions you make today, whether to subscribe, to pay attention, or to dismiss these warnings, will shape how prepared you are for the challenges you might face tomorrow. Do not leave it to chance. Do not wait for the shock of betrayal to jolt you into action. Take control now. I survived because I refused to be passive. I reclaimed my life because I acted deliberately, strategically, and without hesitation. You can equip yourself with the same insight by staying connected, by subscribing, and by learning from the real-life experiences that unfold here. Remember this, if you don't subscribe, you may not see the red flags in your own life until it's too late. And once they appear, the consequences may be irreversible. Don't wait. Don't ignore. Protect yourself by making the choice to stay informed, stay vigilant, and stay empowered. Your life, your trust, and your future are worth it.